Hey everyone, and welcome to our 15 puzzle game, which was created by Abe, Nevaeh, Ruqayyah, Bliena, and Keidra. Meet the team. Ruqayyah was our programmer as well as our presenter. Abe was our programmer as well as our presenter. Keidra was our programmer as well as our presenter. And Nevaeh was our presenter as well as our designer. And Bliena was also our presenter as well as our designer. Project summary. Welcome to our 15 puzzle game. Are you up for the challenge? When opening up the game, you are greeted with a screen that gives you instructions on how to play the game, as well as a bit of history on the 15 puzzle game itself. In the middle of the screen, you are able to choose from 3 different backgrounds. Once selected, you are able to press the shuffle button to begin the game, but try to unscramble it fast because you're being timed.
For our user interfaces, we have 4 main interfaces which were implemented within this project. The main shuffle screen has 3 different backgrounds of which that can be viewed. The 3 backgrounds are going to be Mario from Mario, Luigi from Cars, which is actually his name, he is Luigi, it's not an important fact, the Rubik's Cube, which by the way is spelled with a K because it's actually from Russian origin. Cool history if you ever want to read about it, also a lot of math too. But anyways, the design of the project uses HTML and CSS in order to create a display of 15 numbered squares on a picked background, of which we also implement Java so that way we were able to move the pieces around and also able to shuffle them. Once the shuffle button has been pressed, one of the 3 backgrounds will begin to have the pieces moved around, of which the player will obviously need to reorganize in order to make the image appear back to its original form. And once the player does that, they will be congratulated with a congratulations screen, of which depicting a greeting saying, "Congratulations, you win. Please refresh the page to play again." For a design overview of our project, of course, we designed our project to use HTML and CSS as well as Java. When coding our project, we decided to make all the 15 squares as divs in HTML, and also we decided to place our button to the left side of the screen underneath the backgrounds. We did that with the UI in order to make it a little bit easier for the players so that way they knew everything that they had to set up at once, which is also why we set up our timer underneath the play button so that way it would be more visually appealing. So as soon as you hit play, you can automatically see your time go up right near your cursor. As well as that, we also use CSS and hover over, so that way whenever you hover over the buttons, they turn from blue to white. And as you hover over the actual pieces that you move in the game, the pieces that are right next to the white will actually hover a different color. So you will notice that it's always in the star pattern, so you can actually be able to see which pieces you can actually move, as well as the other pieces which you cannot. For the second screen, we use Java to shuffle the cards to start and end the game, as well as produce the timer. For our DevOps methodology, we use a 5-step plan. For step 1, we began our actual planning. We use a Jira board in order to assign out and plan out our tasks throughout the group in order to make it more manageable inside of the time that we had. For the step 2 coding, we use interface through HTML, CSS, and Java in order to make it possible for us to actually complete the game as per described by the assignment sheet. For the step 3 building of the actual project, we implemented the Java in order to make it have special features of which were also asked for inside of the sheet, that of which are going to be described later on in the PowerPoint presentation, but some of which do include a timer, a shuffle feature, as well as several others. For the step 4 of the testing, we went through trying to fix as many bugs as possible inside of our project, of which we did have a few of which we all went back and definitely went over and over again. One of which being the shuffle button, which caused a lot of issues where whenever you tried to press a square, they weren't shuffling like we planned for. Though we, again, were able to fix those. And then another one to talk about is the release of the project, of which after we completed all the previous steps, we could finally successfully say that we have finished the assignment. Thank God.
And now we have the demo for the project. So when you open the page, you are shown the puzzle on the right hand side of the page, and the timer, which is one of the extra features that we implemented, starts going. On the left hand side, you can pick from 3 backgrounds. So we have a Mario, we have a Luigi from Cars, and we have a Rubik's Cube. This is another extra feature that we implemented. You can also pick the size of the puzzle, so it can be a 4x4 or a 3x3 puzzle. This is a third feature that we implemented. And also, once the page opens, there is a audio that plays in the background. Let me unmute the tab now. So this audio auto plays once the page is loaded, and it grows in intention as time goes on. So let's go ahead and pick Mario in a 3x3 and hit play. You can see that it shows us a new board and the timer does reset. So when you click on the blocks, they move around the page, and you can see that the ones beside an empty square are highlighted with green. Now, once the game ends, you get this banner saying "Congrats, you won. Please refresh the page to play again." And when you refresh the page, it resets the game. You can pick a different board, a different image, a different size, and the timer also resets. You can also, and you can see once it loads, the page is automatically scrambled, so the puzzle is already in a scrambled state. You can click shuffle again if you want to scramble it once again and keep playing from there. Or you can pick a different car and solve that puzzle instead. As you saw in the last page when we finished the game, that ending banner is the 4th extra feature that we implemented for this project. So let's take a quick look. So if I click shuffle, I want to get it really shuffled, then we can start implementing it and trying to solve it. And there we have it. It shows you congrats you won, and then you refresh the page to play again. And that's it for the demo of the 15 puzzle.
The HTML implementation had a basic paragraph and heading tag to describe what the game is and how to solve it. The user has 3 background images they can choose from: Mario, Rubik's Cube, and Cars. So the form is there to allow them to click either of those options and then play the game. There's a div for the overall puzzle and 16 divs within that one. Every tile has its own div and has been labeled with a class and an ID to easily identify it within the CSS or JavaScript. The CSS implementation has all of the styling for the game. Every tile has a class name, tile, that has all of the required properties like font size, font family, the width of the box, the border around each of the boxes, etc. And then there's a class name that got applied to each of the individual tiles, like 0_0, 1_0, 2_0, and so on. Those were applied to each individual tile to position it within the grid. There's a few functions that make up the overall JavaScript file. There is setup, change tile, find neighbors, move tile, and hover tile. Change tile will change the tile once it's clicked. Find neighbors will find a tile that shares a border with the given tile. The move tile function will swap the class to swap the tile locations. And the hover tile function will change the color of the border and text styling once a user hovers over that tile. Shuffle will move the tiles around within the puzzle for 100 iterations.
Some extra features we decided to implement were the multiple backgrounds. We basically used the form element to give the user a chance to choose their own background. The user selection is then processed in JavaScript and used to populate the puzzle tiles. We also did an end of game notification, so when the player is done solving the puzzle, a div will appear reminding the player that they have succeeded and that the game is over. We also added a game timer in Music. The game timer begins with the player as soon as they hit the play button, and the timer begins to count up in seconds. The music will play in an auto loop and will continue to play automatically, like most games. We also did different puzzle sizes, so the form element was used to give the user an option to choose between a 3x3 puzzle or a 4x4 puzzle. The user selection is then processed in JavaScript and used to populate the puzzle tiles. Okay, so here we have a basic UML diagram starting with our HTML source code. Basically, this is very important to the interface and how HTML will interact with JavaScript and CSS in our code. It's commonly used to access and manipulate elements on the page by bringing everything together. So we have just simple elements: container, button, and puzzle, and then of course title, text, link, and script, which is very important for linking to our CSS and JavaScript files. From there, we have our JavaScript variables. We have puzzle X, puzzle Y, all tiles, and map string number. These are all private variables and very important variables to our code. They do a lot of work in bridging the gap between our JavaScript and our HTML files. Then we have some functions and methods. We have setup, which basically initializes the game on the page. We have get position, which will calculate the position. We have get row column. This parses out the class associated with the tile's position. We have find neighbors, which basically will just find tiles that share a border, which is very crucial for the switching between the puzzle pieces. Lastly, we have event handling, which basically connects our HTML document to the web. We have add event listener. This listens for the page load event and triggers the setup function. And then we have a couple external dependencies. So one that I wanted to add was document get element by ID. This basically will represent your HTML document on the web. And these are both predefined objects, and they serve as entry points between HTML and our Windows browser. Here we have a pros and cons list that I came up with personally when pertaining to DevOps methodology. Starting with my pros, I really enjoyed project planning with Jira. Ruqayyah introduced me to it. And I just feel like it provides a very structured and organized approach. It really helps us with tracking and then just overall project management, and it assures that we all have a clear understanding of our own responsibilities, which is very crucial because we all have pretty hectic workloads. I really like the UI development. Successfully coding the first user interface was a very big achievement in any project. It shows progress and it's really inspirational because we finally have a visually appealing part to our code. And so I just really enjoyed the way Mario showed up on the website, and it was just very well designed, and I feel like that contributes to a very positive user experience. I really like the implementation of JavaScript. This allowed for the development of dynamic and interactive features, which we were really lacking earlier on in the semester when we were only allowed to use HTML, CSS, and later on PHP. I just really feel like it enhances the user experience and also the designer's experience, and it's just a lot more fun and appealing. I really enjoyed bug identification and resolution. Identifying and fixing bugs is such a huge part of the coding process. Addressing issues, for example, the shuffle button problem. It just basically allowed us to work together and put our problem-solving skills to the test and overall deliver a quality product. Some cons. I didn't really enjoy the fact that there were difficulties with the shuffle button, and so it basically just suggested that in the future some bugs might pop up with the code, and I feel like that could affect the user experience in the future. And we obviously didn't have enough time to resolve every single issue or issues that will arise in the future, and so that was one con. Didn't enjoy the dependency on workarounds to address issues. I feel like maybe our initial implementation of planning might not have been entirely effective, and relying on workarounds could lead to maintenance challenges in the long run. Unforeseen issues, the need to fix bugs, especially with essential features like the shuffle button, just basically raised concerns about the possibility of, once again, unforeseen issues during different stages. Of course, this isn't an actual website that we're putting out, so it's okay, but in case it was, if we were actually implementing DevOps, that would be something that bothered me. And then addressing bugs and working around issues can impact the project timeline, and so delay in resolving challenges may have consequences for later stages of development and testing.
The DevOps methodology helped with the overall project. It's ideal because it forces you to plan out each step for everyone on the team and to have a task that they would be responsible for. Each phase or step allows you to catch any errors before deploying the pages. But the only downside to that is it can make the process more difficult if you aren't as familiar with each of the steps in this method.
Also, just to talk about my view on using DevOps, I said that the pros are using the methodology allowed us to collaborate and work together better, as well as it allowed us to stay on time and finish things within a timely manner. So for the cons, I said making sure that everything was able to be completed within the time allocated was a bit of a struggle with some of the things.
For this project, we used the DevOps methodology. Some of the pros that I saw were that it helped us with communicating project requirements and any issues that we had. It also let us maintain a task board where we kept track of things that we needed to do, any bugs that came up, as well as work that was already in progress or had been completed. And it was easily adaptable, so as the project requirements changed, we were able to go in and add new items to the to-do list or fix any bugs that came up. The cons, though, were that we didn't have enough time to complete this project, and so we unfortunately weren't able to go into every aspect of the DevOps methodology in depth.
Again, with our DevOps methodology, we had some pros and we had some cons. To really summarize it, the pros that we had were planning, communication, and also the ability to play into our strengths. Obviously, planning is going to be a lot easier once you put up the Jira board. It's very easy to divide up the task into group members and to assign them to their better strengths. And as long as you talk to each other, it's very manageable to do it. But with this specific project, I do feel like there was some more cons than typical because the time constraint felt very demanding, as well as the way that this project was set up. It made it feel as though there were a lot of individual parts of which would have been easier divided, but they also didn't play into everyone's strengths. So it kind of felt like moving on from one task, just having to do another, while all the other projects were very simple and easily grouped into different categories.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy our presentation and using our website and our puzzle game as much as we enjoyed making it and testing it. This was a really fun one to work on.